Alright, I am back with a video about the PS5 Pro. That was the biggest announcement of the week, and it was the worst kept secret in the industry for a good long time now. Sony did one of its famous Mark Cerny reveal videos where he went through the technical changes of the PS5 Pro and demonstrated those, and then surprisingly, they revealed the price, which I was not expecting. I thought they might do that later alongside, some other games to show that off. This has been pretty universally received as bad. Do you know what it takes to unite, at least to some extent, console war fan bases? Like, obviously, outside observers were like, that's crazy. Xbox people were celebrating. Even PlayStation people were like, the best argument people can come up with is you don't have to buy it. This is for people who would have paid any price for this and have unlimited disposable income, which I don't know. There's a limit to that. And I feel like for a lot of people, the limit is $700. So I guess we'll just talk about that price first because it's the glaring thing that's standing out to everybody. It's not just $700, as many people have pointed out. If you want your console to be able to still run discs, which a lot of people do, you have to buy the existing disc drive attachment for $80. It doesn't even come with a vertical stand, so you have to pay for that. I don't know how much that is. Is it $20? I'm just guessing. But so when you do I've seen a lot of grand, adjusted for inflation charts here, where there's a lot of caveats to that. Jeff Keighley actually got Keighley, not Keighley. I always get that wrong. Posted something that got community noted because he didn't take into account things like the disk drive and things like the stand, which are things that these past consoles had intrinsically. This is kind of the first era where stuff like a disk drive is now an optional attachment, or there's multiple versions of consoles, things like that. That's a new era. So you're upping the price to $800 essentially. And I think adjusted for inflation, it's either the number one or number two highest price console ever. And someone else pointed out okay, yeah, but let's compare relative wages from the past to now. And, combined with other inflation things, and wages have not risen enough, compared to inflation and compared to what they used to be. It depends on what you're looking at. Minimum wage obviously hasn't been raised in 10 years or something. Oh, but this console's not for people who make minimum wage. So yeah, fuck off. It's a pretty absurd price, even for people who probably would be willing to shell out for mid-gen upgrade. But this is combined with the fact that it has not been sold as what I would consider, what most people would consider a meaningful upgrade. If that was the best demonstration Sony could do of how this is different, or an upgrade from the current PS5, that was a very poor showing. Not that there, I don't agree with the idea that there was no noticeable difference. There was, some places more than others, but they started the showcase being well, you got to remember that the PS5 is pretty good and pretty advanced, which sets the stage for we can't improve it that much because, we're definitely reaching a point, I think, of diminishing returns here where, the gap between consoles used to be enormous, these huge leap forwards. But even, last generation, the difference between PS4 and PS4 Pro or, 1 and 1X was pretty significant. They had more stuff to talk about. They had more clear demonstrations as to why this is better. This was the whole gist of it was, we're moving fidelity and performance modes closer together. And they spent a long time explaining what that meant. So it's either you focus on resolution and graphics over frame rate, which is, will be 30 FPS, or you pick 60 FPS, but your visuals are suffering. An interesting reveal was that 75% of people pick frame rate, which I was surprised at that. I genuinely was not really expecting that. Usually, fidelity resolution mode is the default selected. You have to, switch over. So that's actually kind of impressive. There was a number of problems here in that they're not just like combining them, they're moving them closer together. So performance mode is definitely getting visual improvements, but it is not like one to one compared to where fidelity resolution modes are now. So if you want the ultra graphics, whatever, you still have to do that probably. Like they didn't say, on PS4, PS5 Pro games that the option to switch between these is going away. They just said they're moving closer together. They also said that 60 FPS is a target, and now reporting has come out. I think Tom Warren did this at The Verge, where that's not like a guarantee at all. There's still going to be 30 FPS games that are quote PS5 Pro enhanced, and they're really saying this enhanced thing to be a general concept rather than some hard and fast like 4K 60 and everything. Like it is definitely not that. I don't think it's close to that. So you never really know for sure. Like they said outright that some of these games are 60 FPS, but like some of the ones they were talking about, like if you put it on fidelity, graphics, unless it was explicitly mentioned, is that definitely going to be 60 FPS? Like I don't think that's a guarantee at all, and we know that for sure. Some of these are going to be 30. Furthermore, it was what was shown off, which are almost all, I mean, they were all existing games. Almost all of them were PS exclusive. A good chunk of them are games that were developed for, PS5 and PS4, or something like The Last of Us Part 2, which was a PS4 game, which has now been remastered. And now they're like, oh, look, the frame rate's better. And it's like, this is like the big demonstration you're doing of like how this improves things. And they, this would have been a time to show like, oh, look how good this new upcoming game looks with PS5 Pro upgrades from, intrinsically built in. And they didn't do that at all. They were just showing, games that are years old that a lot of people have already, beaten or platinumed or whatever. And like, this is obviously not a new entry point for most players at $700. This is an upgrade for existing players. So how many people are like going to go back and play all those games that they showed off? Like, we want to know what's new here. If there is one saving grace, I think, for the PS5 Pro release, it is a single game. It is Grand Theft Auto 6. That is supposedly out next fall. I have zero faith it will hit that mark. There was, a rumor it was delayed. I'm almost positive it will be delayed, having no insider information and just knowing Rockstar and knowing how AAA, quadruple A games work. Like, no way. In any case, Sony can then make the argument, because Xbox apparently is not coming out with any big power upgrade for the Series X, that the PS5 Pro is like the best, most powerful place to play GTA 6 because it is not coming out on PC. Because Rockstar is doing their usual bullshit of like, we're going to double sell this because we can. So you might get a crowd of people willing to buy a PS5 Pro essentially just for GTA 6, which is, going to be one of the biggest games of all time, guaranteed, more or less. And like, I would even consider myself in that camp. Like, this is my job. Technically, a console like this is a tax write-off. Like, I can afford it. Like, this should be me. But even I'm like, And one of the reasons is because GTA 6 is a super advanced, late generation, third-party game. And knowing that they're already saying that, there's no guarantee that all games on PS5 Pro are going to be 60 FPS. It is easy to see how, even if there's some improvements here and there, whatever, that GTA 6, as an expansive, as power consuming as it is not going to run on at 60 FPS, at least with these, whatever PS5 Pro upgrades in any meaningful capacity. And it still just may be, 30 FPS with the PS5 Pro, if we know that a lot of games are going to do this. If I had to pick any game that is likely to really strain the bounds of the current console generation, it's probably GTA 6. And unless PS5 can promise like really, really meaningful differences between an existing PS5 and a PS5 Pro version of GTA 6, that's not going to be worth it either. Like, not paying $700 for that if it's, not a guaranteed 60 FPS with like good graphics. And I very much have doubts that it will be that. I'm sure Sony's working tirelessly, as much as they can with Rockstar to try and get something like that going. But this presentation full of PS4 made games that are now also on PS5 did not reassure me at all that future games and like later generation games that are going to be out like 2 years from now are going to benefit from these minor upgrades more than what we saw here. And even the games we saw here did not really have many significant upgrades that, you're squinting to notice some of these, which has kind of become a meme on Twitter. And this is just a very poor presentation. It's not like we have never seen poor console rollouts before, but in terms of like a tight, 10-minute package, this was very bad on almost every level. Like, not even just the price is bad, but the price is bad for what they showed also. The trailer presentation thing is like way underwater in terms of likes, dislikes right now. And like, that's just not something you usually see with a new console reveal. And I believe that if Xbox really ends up making this handheld Xbox thing, that will be much better received and much more useful for people. I don't know what the full power of that will be. If hopefully it's something that's not just like a PS Portal, which exists, but like not exactly, changing the game here. That would be a lot better. So that is what my take on this is. And let me know what yours is in the comments. Thanks.